I'd like to welcome you all today. Father Joseph O'Hare, our chairman of the board, will be making a few comments, followed by introductions of the rest of the esteemed board members of the Campaign Finance Board and our executive director, Nicole Gordon. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Father Joseph O'Hare.
Thank you very much, Kelly. We consider this an historic date in the history of New York City politics, and that's why we are calling this press conference. Today, as you know, marks the first date that payments will be made to candidates who have chosen to participate in the campaign finance program and who have qualified for public matching funds according to the terms of that program. Obviously, then, it's an historic date for New York City politics, and since this program of public campaign finance is by far the most ambitious attempted by any municipality in the United States, I think it also represents a significant date for national politics as well. Just a few words about the background of this program. You will recall that the City Council of the City of New York, working closely with the mayor, passed a Campaign Finance Act in February 1988. In November of that year, the Charter Revision Commission put on the ballot proposals that made the Campaign Finance Board a charter agency. It also added to the responsibilities of the board as outlined in Local Law 8 by mandating that the board also publish a voter guide, a task that perhaps the members of the Charter Revision Commission, a few of whom are here today, including myself, may have underestimated the enormity of the task involved. But this is a dummy of what the 1989 voter guide will look like. It will be where copies are at the printer now for the primary. There will be another edition for the general election. It will be in both Spanish and English. There will be a page for each candidate and general instructions about how to vote, how to register. And for the general election, if the Charter Revision Commission does put proposals on the ballot, we will also include a summary of their proposals with pro and con statements. Now, you will recall that in last November, over 80% of the voters supported the proposal of the Charter Revision Commission that confirmed the existence of the Campaign Finance Board. In doing so, they then confirmed public support of the action taken by the City Council and the Mayor in November 1988. Public support then of the purposes behind the Campaign Finance Act. Among the principal purposes, a recognized need to control spending in political campaigns, a need to correct at least the perception that wealthy contributors can exercise exaggerated and inappropriate influence over elected officials, and finally, the need to encourage broader participation in the political life of the city by making it possible for candidates, grassroots, middle-income candidates, who would not otherwise have access to sufficient funding, to give them the possibility of, through matching public funds, being able to mount a campaign for public office. Now, this program of campaign, I should say there's an additional purpose, and that is that we are mandated by law to install a computerized system that will track contributions and expenditures and make public disclosure of the patterns of contributions more readily available. Later on today, you will hear about a remarkable new figure in New York City politics, CFIS. We haven't given him a first name yet, but CFIS stands for CFIS, the Campaign Finance Information System, and I think it's going to become a silent partner in political campaigns in the future. Now, the Campaign Finance Act stipulated that the program would be run by a 5-member campaign finance board. 2 members are appointed by the mayor from different political parties, 2 members by the majority leader of the city council, and the chairman designated by the mayor after consultation with the majority leader of the city council. So I'd like to introduce the other members of the campaign finance board. Mr. Jim Lewis, who is a lecturer at Hunter College and at Bernard Baruch College, appointed by the vice chair of the city council, the majority leader. Mr. Robert McKay, former dean and professor at New York University School of Law, past president of the Association of the Bar of the City of New York, appointed by the mayor. Joseph Messina, appointed by the Vice Chair of the City Council. Mr. Messina is the President of the Motor Vehicle Accident Indemnification Corporation. And Sonia Sotomayor, appointed by the Mayor. Ms. Sotomayor is a member of the firm of Pavia and Harcourt and is a former Manhattan Assistant District Attorney. We think that the board represents at least some of the diversity of the population of the city of New York. Now, we are mandated by law to publish a report in 1990 that will review our experience in administering this law. And it's our hope that in that report we will be able to make recommendations based on our experience that will both strengthen the law and streamline its administration. In developing our regulations and procedures, we have tried, as the staff knows all too well, to make our regulations and procedures as simple as possible but as complete as necessary. And the staff worked very closely with the staffs of the different candidates in developing those procedures. It is our hope that in the light of this experience, we may be able to simplify those procedures even more for the next time around. But even before that formal review that is due in 1990 is completed, I believe we can make some tentative, partial assessments of how the law is working at this time. I think we can see that there certainly has been a break on campaign spending and on contributions. The patterns of fundraising have necessarily changed, with a much greater premium put on smaller contributions from more individual voters. Today, as you can see from your press folder, there are 48 candidates who have chosen to participate in the program. 33 of these have met threshold requirements, and of these, 26 are engaged in primary contests. It is these 26 who will receive checks today, the first public payment, ranging in size from about $2,500 to over $280,000 for an aggregate of about $817,758. Now, there was some thought that we would bring the checks here and present the checks to each individual candidate, but the cooler heads prevailed because they felt this would look too much like a diploma ceremony if I was dispensing checks to everyone. The amount that each candidate will receive today is the amount that each candidate has claimed, for which the candidate has claimed eligibility, minus a uniform 10% reduction that the board felt was wise and prudent as our audit of the filings continues. Throughout the campaign and even after the election, the board will be conducting audits of the candidates' filings, and we will be making adjustments to the payments already made, sometimes upwards, sometimes downwards, addition, subtraction, according as the errors that raise questions in the staff's mind are resolved. Our policy thus far has been that whenever our audit discovers what appears to be an error, or whenever an error is called to our attention, we give the candidate the opportunity to respond to the inquiry and to cure the error if possible. In other words, this is, we recognize, an unfamiliar procedure for many staffs, and we felt, especially this first time around, that we want to accommodate the candidates and their staffs as much as possible. The next filing date for campaign contributions and expenditures will be on August the 11th, and the next payment will be on August the 17th, and that payment will represent an adjustment to the payment that's being made today. I say could be upwards, could be downwards. Finally, I think congratulations are in order for a number of people in the room today. First of all, on behalf of the people of the City of New York, I think we want to congratulate the Mayor and the City Council for having the courage and the commitment to electoral reform to pass this law in February 1988. And while the Mayor is not here, I do want to single out the Majority Leader, Peter Vallone, for his leadership in bringing that law to fruition. I also want to say, having introduced the 5 members of the board, I want to call attention to the fact that one of the candidates in the program was a member of the original Campaign Finance Board until he chose to pursue elected office, Frank Macchiarola, who I think is here, and who is the feisty professor. Secondly, I think we should congratulate also the candidates, those who are here and those who were not able to be here, who have had the commitment to electoral reform to choose voluntarily to participate in this program. And they've demonstrated this commitment by their readiness to conform to what are admittedly the unfamiliar and to that extent taxing challenges of complying with the requirements made necessary by the law. I should say that there are, of course, some very conspicuous examples of candidates who have chosen not to participate in the program, and I don't think the amount of money that they have spent reflects necessarily greater influence among the electorate. Finally, I know I speak for the other members of the Campaign Finance Board when I want to congratulate the staff of the Campaign Finance Board. They have labored in very short time amid conflicting pressures, working with what I would call missionary zeal, or sometimes around the clock, both to produce this voter guide, to set up the accounting and information systems necessary to provide disclosure, all of this in a very, very short time. Nicole Gordon, the executive director of the staff, began her duties in September 1988, working out of my Lincoln Center office. And the deputy director of the staff only came on board in November. So in 7.5 to 8 months, I think a monumental task has been accomplished by the staff in setting up the systems that make it possible for us to actually pay out real money today in what we think is a very significant moment for New York City political life. And I'd like now then to introduce the executive director of the Campaign Finance Board staff, Nicole Gordon, who will tell us a little bit about some of the systems now in place.
I'd like to just give you a picture of what it is meant to try to administer this law over the recent period. As Father O'Hare said 8 or 9 months ago, Carol Campolo, Deputy Executive Director, and I just began work out of empty offices, literally without a pencil in hand. And today we have a fully operational city agency with approximately 35 full-time employees. The administrative challenge of putting this law together has been met by an extraordinarily dedicated staff, which is divided into several departments, and I'd like to outline briefly what has been accomplished to date. The legal department has developed a full set of the necessary regulations required to implement the Campaign Finance Act and the city charter. It has published numerous plain language guides, a compendium of all applicable laws and rules and regulations, and has in the meantime been meeting extensively with candidates, answering their questions, and their staffs, of course, handling litigation, complaints, and advisory opinion requests. The CFB system Father O'Hare referred to is the result of the work of the systems department. At the end of February, a contract was approved by the Board of Estimate to enable the board to go forward with developing a very sophisticated mainframe computer system. It might contrast what New York has undertaken with what other jurisdictions have done. This is the largest campaign finance program in the country after the federal government. Other municipalities such as Seattle and Tucson are able to manage their systems with the use of a single PC and an operator who enters data. New York requires the use of a mainframe, the biggest of all kinds of computers, basis by contributor and by address of contributors. The auditing department has had to do its preliminary work entirely manually based on the candidates' filings. I believe Frank Lynn measures these things in feet. Sorry, CFB measures things in numbers of transactions, and the auditing department, like Frank, likes to measure things in feet. Anyway, there are many, many feet of filings, and the audit staff has completed a preliminary review entirely manually that has covered all the candidates in the system, and is in the process now of compiling relevant data in order to alert candidates to potential errors, mistakes, and in order to give them an opportunity to adjust their records in time for the next payment. But this is, of course, an ongoing process, so that what the auditing department is doing also represents a plan for the rest of this year and forever after in the system. The communications department, as well as dealing with the press and providing public information to anyone who is looking for it, is producing the voter guide described by Father O'Hare. This is the first time that New York City has ever seen a document of this kind, and just to give you a sense of the magnitude of that, it will be going out to between 2 and 3 million households. twice in 5 different editions, one for each borough. Each time it goes out, that is once for the primary, once for the election, there is a total of 8 weeks that the staff has to compile it, have it translated into Spanish, and get it printed up and delivered. So you get some sense of what that task is like. Finally, the administrative branch of the office has been putting together an office from scratch in the city of New York, which, with the various contract approvals, bureaucratic things that have to be done, I'm sure many of you are very, all too familiar with, has been a very challenging task. So as you can see, it's been challenging for the staff of the board to put this program together, and I'm glad to say that it looks as though it is working. I'm confident that it is working. I would also say, though, it has been an equally challenging task for the staffs of the candidates and the candidates themselves to have to work with a developing set of rules, a developing a group of people that, in which some departments were put together faster than others. And I'm very gratified to say that, at least based on the preliminary review of the audit department, what we have seen now is that there has been substantial compliance with the law by the candidates. And that does show that the program, while it may have seemed awfully difficult at first to work with the cooperation of the candidates and the staff, we've been able to make the law work. And I would say finally that that has depended in a very big way on the fact that although, as with every aspect of the work we've done, there have been glitches and false starts, the cooperation we've seen between the candidates and their staffs and our staff has been really extraordinary and has enabled, I think, both groups to understand how the law works and to make it work. So I want to thank everybody who's been involved in this effort very, very much. Bye.